Look, I like this. This is good, but like, I don't know. Is this really what I want? I don't think I'm the first person to make the connection that a lot of the modern day Ubisoft games are similar, right? Climb a giant tower, clear an outpost, and then hunt down some wild boar to craft a slightly better wallet. I feel like it's common knowledge that if you've played one, you've played a lot of them. And I'm not even necessarily saying that's a bad thing. Comfort food, comfort gaming is good. To know that no matter what happens, the virtual world is gonna be roughly the same forever. I think there's merit to that. It's just, I don't know. Am I playing this for myself or for that imaginary completion check mark in my head? Ubisoft is an interesting company to me. When I grew up, they were the company of Rayman. That's what I knew them for, and while they made new ones of those as well, there was always something special about the PS1, PS2 era Ubisoft games and how they looked. Cartoony graphics, of course, lower poly models, etc., but even when compared to platformers around the time, there was a certain je ne sais quoi to the games that Ubisoft Pictures made. Over-exaggerated proportions, weird geometry, textures like out of a Salvador Dali painting, as if a trance-like haze lay thick over the whole art style, not quite sure if dreamy or nightmarish. Very French. Until the day I die, I'll defend Rayman 3 Hoodlum Havoc as one of the coolest looking games of all time. But I don't mean to lament how boring gaming has become or whatever. All the Far Cry's, all the Assassin's Creeds are fine. But thinking Ubisoft, I don't care for fine. Thinking Ubisoft, I care for different. That's where that one trailer comes in. Don't you know the one? E3 2017. Pig guy with a mustache, spaceships, pirates, a British monkey with a grappling hook.
What? That's Swiss fucking chocolate, pig.
Maybe the coolest trailer of all time. It was a trailer for a sequel, a prequel, a spiritual successor, whatever. It was a follow-up to what many people would deem as the Ubisoft game. But more importantly, it was a trailer for a follow-up to a game that's a little bit different. The original Beyond Good and Evil released in 2003. Coming out of a team led by longtime Rayman creators in Montpellier, France, it hit store shelves during a time of new consoles pushing the limits, and it came out swinging against heavy hitters like Ratchet, Jak, and Zelda. And even though somehow it managed to stand on its own 2 feet. I played it a bit back then, not sure I actually ever finished it, but I remember one moment right at the start of the game that I think to some level influenced me picking up a camera for the first time. So with the brand new anniversary edition coming out, celebrating like, I don't know, 21 years since the initial release, I thought I'd play it. I have no real plan this time, but I found 2 rolls of Ultramax 400 and an old Nikon that I don't know if it actually works, so let's go for a walk and let's talk about it.
And if thou gaze long into an abyss, the abyss will also gaze into thee. An excerpt from the book that our little Ubisoft game shares a name with. Beyond Good and Evil by Nietzsche is maybe one of the most well-known philosophical deep dives into morality that has ever been written, and its bold paradigm-shifting arguments against the binary narrative of the clear-cut good versus evil in favor of shades of crookedness influenced, well, the entire world and France. Because after 400,000 Rayman titles, the studio behind the limbless haircuts rambunctious adventures that had almost always had a clear, evil, cartoony big baddie wanted to do something else. Something deeper, something more involved, something making the players feel something. Something worthy of a legacy. It was an incredibly ambitious title, supposed to offer the player almost unseen freedom in terms of exploration and discovery, at least that's what the early interviews said, to pack a whole universe onto a single CD, which might seem like easy peasy work nowadays with the likes of Elite Dangerous and No Man's Sky, but on the PS2, well, it was a promise of gold and green forests. And no one cared. According to an interview conducted by Matt Burtz of the now-defunct Game Informer magazine, the first 2 E3s the team went to in order to showcase the game, it garnered little to no response, leaving them questioning if they were even on the right track, so they looked around them, saw all the massive games coming out, but believed they still had what it took. And people loved it. Come release, this universe on a CD struck a chord with both critics and players that picked it up. All 8 of them that did, because according to the sales numbers around the time, it sold like cold cakes. Does that even work? It didn't sell well. That's what I was trying to get at. Awful sales numbers. Abysmal. Slashed prices from almost week 1. But the momentum was there. It was slow in 2003, but there. Under the surface, it was brewing. Ubisoft might have considered it a commercial failure, despite the raving critical reviews, but slowly over the years, as more and more people got their hands on a copy, it grew, gained a huge following, and when the re-release finally happened in the early 2010s, the cult classic label could finally be ripped off, and Beyond Good and Evil became a bona fide mainstay in the 6th generation Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and all of that is good, obviously. The cool kids played it. The forums I hung around always talked about it. I love the PS2 platformers so much, but for whatever reason, I never really got into Beyond Good and Evil fully. I vividly remember the world and the characters. The fact that other species had evolved alongside humans was such a sick concept, and I always thought that it managed to blend realism and this weird sci-fi in a way that I hadn't really seen before. And maybe that mix of real and stylized was why the first minutes of the game hit so hard. At the very start of the game, the planet you live on, led your entire life on, gets attacked by an extrasolar enemy, and immediately people start talking about the war. I don't know if this is how other people saw it around the time, but the whole vibe of the world established in these first seconds of the game is that it's over. The world is ending. There's nothing stopping the war. It's gonna envelop the whole planet and leave nothing and no one alive to tell the tales of the before times. Because starting off the game with this world-ending narrative, it just felt different. Jack and Daxter, their world wasn't, in peak condition. Ratchet wanted to be a spaceship pilot and there was a ongoing onslaught against the entire universe. Sly wanted to reclaim his lost family legacy, but for some reason nothing felt as real and as dystopian and hopeless as Beyond Good and Evil. Starting off the game like that, well, that's different.
From the very first steps you take as protagonist Jade, that old Ubisoft vibe lays almost as thick as that of world-ending despair. The weird geometry, the exaggerated proportions, and the whimsical architecture of Rayman is all over the art style. And while everyone seems to have their limbs attached this time, the surrounding cast, consisting of almost every animal under the sun, having evolved alongside humans to share the burden of being the dumbest creatures on the planet, is new, with the centerpiece of that being your own uncle, a plump, cynical, wisecracking pig called Paige, spelt P-E-Y''J. It's different.
Don't you worry, Paige. Everything will be fine. If you want, I'll go alone.
No, it's just, okay, we'll go together. But I'm sticking to you like bees on honey, whether you like it or not.
And the game mixes almost every element that you would expect from a 6th generation pseudo-platformer. The planned exploration might be at the core, but your journey across Hillis sees you take on enemies with your trusty quarterstaff, engage in vehicular combat and racing, as well as allowing you to utilize a surprisingly robust sneaking system. It's not a coincidence that a lot of the people called it Ubisoft's Zelda. It's a fairly simple combat ROM through a world filled with puzzle solving and light Metroidvania aspects. It's a remarkably well put together world, all tied together through the strands of the biodiversity that is at the center of the presentation.
That's where that one moment comes in. Your first task, given before you even take your first steps, isn't to save the world like in Zelda or and Jack, but to go to work like normal, like the photographer that you are. A mission given to you in a desperate plea to catalog every single living entity on the planet before the end, because there's nothing stopping the war. And this is the last shot at maybe preserving something. But again, I understand if this wasn't really how everyone saw it, because it's not told in text. It's a read between the lines kind of melancholia that permeates the whole world. The characters constantly make jokes. There are lighthearted references, well, everywhere. But I could never shake the oppressive shadow that's looming forever over the next hill. I mean, for Christ's sakes, there's a talking pig that's like almost always following you around, cracking jokes. And one of the big first cutscenes is how he's developed rocket-powered fart boots. Or fart-powered rocket boots, oh, one of them. It's like impossible to get more lighthearted than that. But even then, there's something stealing the air just straight out of your lungs. Because even as you see success in the resistance movement and gain ground against the dark, your main source of income is forever just that of that journalistic research effort. To maintain a legacy of everything that once called the planet home. Even in the shadow of, well, surely the ultimate demise.
Recently, I've been going on a bit of a bender. Over the summer, I played a new game called Nobody Wants to Die that was released on Steam. People said it reminded them of the Art Deco that they first saw in BioShock's Rapture, and as I just finished up another playthrough of that, I felt inclined to give this a shot. It's a detective story, somewhere halfway between a puzzle game and a walking simulator, instantly reminding me of Firewatch with its dialogue writing, 1920s Americana with its gorgeous visual design, and a little quirky gem called Murdered Soul Suspect in its gameplay systems. You step into the shoes of old beat cop James Cara in your flying car, hovering high above the streets of Manhattan in the year 2329, and yeah, I see what they mean. The images of Rapture come flooding back. You've lost your wife, on leave from the force after a horrific accident and in the struggles of severe alcoholism. And yeah, well, you're 120 years old. Because in Nobody Wants to Die's 2300s New York City, if you have the money, you don't have to. A society where cognitive decline is slowed to a crawl and the limits of your physical body can simply be discarded along with it. Swap your conscience over to the next shell and live forever. It's a high-tech, low-life exploration into the idea of preserving your memory until the end of time. And that end of time. Well, anytime I think about that, since 2015, only one game comes to mind. Frictional's masterpiece, Soma. You're Simon, a Toronto native going to get his brain scanned. New tech that captures an image of your mind, a leap into what modern medicine could become, a Nobel Prize in certainty. For you right now, it's a desperate attempt to try and save your life after that horrific car crash left you with months to live.
Ready? Say cheese.
The world has ended. Effectively, all of it, bar a little research base on the ocean floor, a little research base in which you now wake up. Soma is intricate. It's a carefully woven tale of a person waking up in a completely new world without any recollection. It dives deep into what human consciousness really is and what it means to leave a legacy behind. Are we really we? If a person were to be cloned, how long would they stay the same entity? Where does the us end and the cold hard reality of them turning into someone else begin?
Listen, head for the comm center upstairs. I'll wait here.
All of these games are similar. BioShock sees Andrew Ryan build a city to his ideals, however ridiculous they may be, to forever remember him. Nobody Wants to Die takes it one step further and makes sure that you yourself stick around, forever making your own choices, forever making sure that your legacy stays just the way you want, while Soma scans you, leaves you just the way you are, and then saves that scan for some other use case. For all intents and purposes, that's someone else now, out of your control.
I was just about to call the camera the most simple tool in human history. I don't really think that might be true. We don't really think of Stone Age people with sticks and stones and maybe the rudimentary axe and then a Nikon F801. That's not really, that's not the progression of tools that Empire Earth taught me. But in comparison with what we see in Soma with the imaging technology and whatever the fuck is going on and Nobody Wants to Die, the camera, well, is pretty simple, all things considered. To just freeze time in a split second, to save the universe as it was then and only then. It's the most simple idea I think anyone could ever have. And in that sense, maybe the most simple tool we've ever invented.
To keep the legacy as it is, right then, right there, at that very moment. To live forever is great, sure, to constantly have the option to do over or fix things or perfect stuff, but is that really what should be valued? The imperfections, the misses, the almost, the stumbles and falls, the nosedives, are those not as important? To truly capture life as is, not as if or as could be, but as is. Maybe that's why I'm out here. I own a far more modern Nikon capable of capturing photos directly on a little memory card, immediately showing the results of your labor on a high-quality LCD display. I'm shooting this video on a far more up-to-date camera as well, 4K resolution, raw video files, formats made to be altered, to be twisted into artistic expression, and all those things are good, great, even I love those things, but they aren't why I'm here. The tactile act of pressing the shutter button, hearing the shutter snap close, and seeing the viewfinder black out for a split second as the world is eternalized, not as ones and zeros in a forever expanding digital library of things to forget, but on film. Photons having traveled for trillions upon trillions of years, ending up on a little piece of cellulose nitrate somewhere, where someone thought of saving a second as is.
Well, now. But that's the thing with this anniversary release, right? It's like, it's not a remake or a remaster. I mean, I don't really know what those words even mean today, but like, it's not marketed as that. It's an anniversary release. It's essentially the same game with a new coat of paint, some reflections, new textures maybe, I don't know, maybe they're upscaled, new lighting. It looks great, but again, the original already did that. So it's like a little disappointing, but I think there's a point to it. After the immense trailers for Beyond Good and Evil 2, both in 2017 and 2018, and now after reading the development woes that the original went through, I would adore to see a full reimagining, something like what they're doing with Final Fantasy VII, to build a hill list that they initially wanted to, because the interviews where they talk about that sound incredible. And just like every other fan at this point, I'm just starving for more stuff to explore. Because the world of Beyond Good and Evil is, well, it's tiny. I'm sure if I had played it to completion when I was a kid, it probably would have felt never-ending, but as it stands, it's like a minuscule little piece of virtuality, where you can totally see the seams of where they were planning on expanding it, but didn't. A minuscule little piece that's about to get swallowed whole. And the anniversary version is the exact same. The world is tiny. The dialogue is awkward in places. Character development tracks are muddied and lack direction. It might be a masterpiece in spite of all of these things, but it isn't a flawless one. And keeping the anniversary release exactly like this, well, it's certainly the cheaper option. I'm sure Ubisoft love the fact that they can just re-release the same game and get a quick couple of millions. But in a way, it's keeping something alive, reaching back into history and representing it with all its flaws, all its issues, all its imperfections, and all its beauty. Standing where it's always stood. Sure, some things are polished up a nice sheen over the new lighting engine or whatever it is that's making those textures pop, but it's the same game, just brought into the future and presented to a new generation that just didn't happen to be alive when the first story was told.
I don't know. It's probably a muddy metaphor, isn't it? You could already play the original on Steam if you really wanted, but maybe that's the thing. The game has been there for 1 billion years. All the people likely to play it, well, they've already done so tens of times over, but here, now, maybe someone new is invited in to look at a world right before it completely flashes out, just as it had always been, right before the end.
You've probably already seen them. Well, at least I hope so, if I've done my job correctly. But I just got home from the camera store with the developed photos for the first time. This whole thing was supposed to be a side project at the end of summer. It's silly, it's stupid, it's not really saying anything, don't worry. It's nothing special. It's a no-plan ramble diving into a couple of games that I thought shared some commonality. It's a snapshot at the tail end of summer when I decided to just get out for a little bit and go for a walk. They're ill-composited snapshots of one entity's afternoon in the dying throes of our world. A postcard from a tortured rock suspended in a sunbeam. They mean absolutely nothing as everything falls apart. But as it does, ending this thing we call life, sometimes rushing past the windows as if in a blur, and sometimes crawling along the ground as if it would take forever. They offer up a second.